Hello, is this Jean?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Who is it?
This is Dan Hines. I'm phoning from
Oh,
Canada.
yes. I was waiting for you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Kamloops in British Columbia, so right in the interior of British Columbia.
What are you doing there?
I live in a community here. We've created a housing community together with a group of
Okay.
friends. Yeah, and built a house together, and I serve here as an Anglican priest as well.
Yeah. Oh, super. Super.
Yeah, good. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Now, what are we going to talk about then?
Well, I thought we'd talk a bit about Parker Palmer's. I'm doing a course about your writing and the writing of Parker.
Ah.
hmm And also, I'm using some interview material as well from
Are
both of
are
you.
you at a meeting where they're doing that?
Yes, yeah. It's a retreat center, and it's a
Retreat center in BC?
in BC. Yeah, an Anglican retreat center. Yeah.
Super. Super.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about?
Well, I'd like you to maybe reflect with me a bit about what you have encountered or read or experienced in Parker's writings. And
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't read too much. The one that touched me the most was the article he wrote for a book of Henry Nouwen on depression. And that was an extraordinary article of his two depressions. Does that mean something to you?
It does. It does.
Yeah, because that was an extraordinary. And how in the depression he was living in a snake pit, and that nobody could help him except one person who came every day to do a foot massage. But then he came out and said the real question was a spiritual one.
Yeah.
And finally, it was for him to discover humility. And so I found something extraordinary in that article. I mean, it says the center of everything about humility.
When I've heard Parker tell that story as well, he says that he had no other feelings in his body except for the very bottom of his feet, and his friend knew intuitively that that was the only sensation that he had remaining in the real deep darkness of his depression.
Yes, and it says something about foot massage, because that's a special science about massaging the foot in particular. But the extraordinary thing was how he really came out of it, because he was accompanied spiritually and discovered that what was important was humility. So I found that. And then the whole mystery of two people coming together. And he cited Rilke, and I think it was Rilke that he cited about the meeting of two people.
That's right.
So there's something which I have found extraordinary in his writings. I mean, in Laos, we've always heard about him as being someone important and somebody who had a great sense of what it means for people, what it means to be a person. But what was the most striking, and I think that is what says who he is, Parker Palmer, is essentially his humility.
One of that's helpful, Jean. Yeah, that's helpful. And I wonder if you could say a few things too about in your writings you talk a lot about loneliness and about and then belonging. Parker tends to use the language of solitude and community. I find there's a really richness to both the way in which you use language, but I think you're both speaking to the same reality.
Yeah, the only word is that the word solitude, I would use more loneliness than solitude, because for a lot of people to be a hermit, it's about being solitude.
Yeah.
So I would use more loneliness, but the reality behind it is the same.
Yeah.
That we have to discover. And I think fundamentally what he's saying is we have to discover who we are in the very depth of our being. And I'm saying more and more that a lot of people have been broken because they've been humiliated.
Yeah.
And that's to say that the secret of their being, the most delicate part of their being, the child within them has been hurt. And when that child within them has been hurt, they have to be refound. And that is what a meeting is about. To meet somebody who has been humiliated, to reveal to that person he or she is more beautiful than they dare believe. So everything in L'Arche is about welcoming people who have been humiliated to reveal to them slowly. And I think the strength of L'Arche is the slowly as we live together, to reveal to them that they are more precious than they dare believe. Because I believe that in each one of us, there's a child that has been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And because the child has been hurt, we put up barriers to perfect the child. And that barrier pushes us to want to win, to be applauded, to have more power, etc. And the whole thing is, little by little, we have to lower have lowered the systems that we have of protection, so that little by little we can be in contact with the child.
And John, how does a community do that? I mean, how does a community live into that possibility?
Well, for each one, first of all, it's different, and secondly, there's never a set way.
Yeah.
But what we find here in our communities, because we're living with people who are very simple, sometimes a bit crazy, and none of them wanting to live conformity. Mm-hmm. So here we're in a place where conformity is not the rule, if I may use that expression. And so there's a new liberty that people find, the liberty to be themselves. Yesterday, I was dining with a woman in the home that I live, and she has been coming as a volunteer into our workshop for 10 years. She's the wife of a French general, and she's been coming and being in the workshop with those who are the most disabled. And she says, I've been completely transformed here. Mm. Because what I have is now I just can be myself. As the wife of a general, I had to conform. But here I've discovered I'm allowed to be myself, just as the people that are working in the workshops, they're allowed to be themselves. So the danger is that we're all putting up walls to conform to be part of a group. And we want that group to be the winning group, the best group, and so on. So it's lowering the walls so that we can become like children again and laugh and play and have fun. And of course, people with disabilities are super, because what they like is having fun and fooling around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that is what is unique in our communities, is that we're living with people who are non-conformist.
Yeah. And what is it, do you think, what is it that keeps so many of us then locked up in our fear? What is that about our human experience?
You see, I think when we're little children, I'm talking about under 4 years old and particularly under 2 years old, Mom is just saying to us, I love you as you are. Yeah. You can scream during the middle of the night and I'll come and we'll laugh and play. And so the child who is loved, who the child that is loved, discovers that he or she is important. But then something happens, and then we have to conform to the ideas of what the parents want. We have to conform morally, we have to be a success, we have to win, we have to do somewhere what the parents want. And so then we get into that tension between knowing that I'm loved just as I am, and that is a little childhood, And then that movement where we have to become little by little what people want us to become.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is something that happens is that parents do not know how to awaken personal conscience. That question of personal conscience, to know what is right and not just doing what others want me to be. So it's the freedom to follow conscience. And that is a long, long question that many people are not able to don't get to.
Mm-hmm.
You still there?
I am, John. I'm just taking in what you're saying, and I'm reflecting on how
it's community. I mean, community. We have to be together. We work together. Yeah. So we're not in any situation where we're struggling to be better or to have a higher promotion and so on. So there's that sort of tension of wanting to be better, in a way, doesn't exist. Second thing is that the assistants come here wanting to do good to people with disabilities, but then they discover that that is not the plan. What is important is that they become friends with people with disabilities. And then they begin to learn how to accept their own weaknesses and their own vulnerability. That it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be weak. We need help. And that's what community is. It's a place where we can show our weaknesses, and if we're humble enough, we ask for help and support and so on from the team. We're able to say, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. And how does
my experience with accompanying assistants is that during the first period, many come as to once a month, and they say, I love Lars, it's super. And it's the day that they come and say, I'm fed up with Lars, and I can't stand this other person, that then now we can begin to talk.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I like the phrase, the broken heart. You know, when the heart gets shattered, when the heart gets broken, or when we begin to experience our own anguish, that's the moment of great discovery.
Our anguish, our anger, and our depression.
And our violence, and the violence we have.
And our violence. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. How do you feel how does spiritual practice and silence and prayer, how does that come into this, Jean?
Well, people have to discover little by little. St. Paul is very interesting because you know how he defines love in Corinthians. Mm-hmm. He says, love is patience. Love is service. Love is not putting yourself forward. Love is to rejoice in truth. Love is to believe all, hope all, excuse all, and bear all. Now, when we're living sometimes with people who are autistic or sometimes with other disabilities, they really try your patience. So here we have to learn patience or buzz off. I mean, it's just a question. So particularly with some people who are seriously disabled and can have fits of violence and so on, it's really discovering what love is about. It's about being patient. It's not by doing good. It's by being patient. It's service. And the service is just to help each one to find greater peace. That is to say, to help each one discover that he or she is more beautiful than they dare believe, and that their person, hidden under their violence, hidden under their disabilities, they have a person that is there. So it's love is to be patient, it's to excuse all, and finally what is being said in those texts of Paul in Corinthians is love is to learn to forgive, and that is a long road. And I believe that is the heart of community. It's about forgiveness, forgiving self and forgiving others.
And I've been thinking lately too about also forgiving God too, or forgiving the world the way it is as well.
yes, which is not necessarily forgiving God. I think the mystery of God.
Yeah.
But God is so humble. He's waiting, knocking at the door, and nobody wants to open it. When I say nobody, I'm sorry. Not everybody is wanting to open it. So there's the mystery of God proposing, inviting, calling, and God is not going to change things. Do you know Etty Hillsum a bit?
You know what? I bumped into Etty Hillsum through Richard Rohr and some of his writings, and it's been a profound read to read through her letters. And
she is extraordinary.
Yes.
And at one moment she's in the camp, and horrible things are going on. And she says, I don't think God can do anything now to the situation. But then she adds, I think God needs us. Because God, what he wants is to find hearts in which he can rest. In our world where nobody wants God, we must give him those hearts where he can come and rest. So I think the mystery of God is that he's announcing, proposing, inviting, knocking at the door. And it's like, I'd call the kingdom of God is like a wedding feast, and nobody wants to come.
Yeah.
Eventually the king is furious and sends out and says, bring in all the poor, the lame, the broken, and the blind. That's to say, those who are crying out to be loved. So there's something about the extraordinary humility of God.
I have a spiritual director, Jim, that has told me that his definition of the kingdom of God is when people are hanging out together that shouldn't hang out together, that people we would never imagine could be together and are together, and that's the evidence of the kingdom of God. I've always found it to be very helpful.
Different coming together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what is it that keeps you? I mean, I'm certain there must be many times in which you have wondered if it was worth it, or if you wanted to continue to remain in community. What is it that has kept you, do you think, in community?
The face of people with whom I'm living, they are so beautiful, and we have such fun together. You know, I've been eating, and I still eat in the same home that I've been eating since 1980, and before then I was in another home. But it's just wonderful to be with them, and to see some of them being transformed by living together. And it's so beautiful. I mean, I couldn't think of any idea of running away, because this is a good life. I mean, I'm just wondering why not more people are living in L'Arche. It's simple, it's fun. That doesn't mean to say there are not hard moments and we go through periods of conflict, but fundamentally, it's the beauty of people with disabilities that are keeping us all here, because they're so beautiful. And it's so much fun to be with them. And they're not there to discuss philosophy or things like that. They're there to share together and have fun together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one more question for you, Jean. It's more of a personal question. As now at this age of life, at this time in your journey, and how are you doing with aging, with moving to a place of weakness in your own body and life? How's that journey been for you?
I get obviously more tired. I forget things. I mean, all that is there. But I'm still eating in my foyer. The other day there was a meeting, and I was talking with some people, and there was Nicole, who is there, also was with me. And Nicole is a person with a disability. And she got up, and I said, can you tell them a bit about L'Arche? And she said, yes, well, to begin with, John, which is me, Jean, was looking after us. Now we're looking after him. So it's a good place. And I find that people with disabilities are so super. When they're saying, "Are you tired?" I mean, there's just a gentle compassion and goodness. So my weakness, in some ways, brings me closer to people. I have difficulty sometimes walking. My legs are much weaker. And so people give me their arm. That's super. I mean, weakness brings people together. And I sense that here. The community here made a little house for me. And there's somebody living next door who looks after the medical and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I couldn't be in a better place. And I eat pretty well every day in my home, or twice a day, and it's just a good life. Now, what will happen when I'm in a situation when I maybe can only be in a wheelchair? What will happen when maybe I'm getting closer to Alzheimer? What can happen? I mean, that's the future. For the moment, I have a weakness or a disability which has slowed me up, which means I have to sleep more. I have to be a little bit more careful about what I eat. But I have you see, weakness is painful when it's rejection. Weakness is painful if the sense of our life was to win and to get more money, then weakness is. But if weakness is the place that brings us together in love, then it's a good journey.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
I really appreciate the time to talk together.
Okay. Well, are you doing the symposium now?
Yeah, it's going to start on Sunday, and then it'll go through to Friday. So,
okay.
So that it'll be.
Well, give my love to everybody.
I will, Jean. I will. Yeah, they'll be listening to your voice, so it'll be great for them to be able to hear these kind words from you too.
Okay. Peace to you, Dan.
Thank you. Okay. Bye bye.